Welcome on another edition of the program, CEO's Talk Business at the Marina today. It's my pleasure that we'll be having a conversation with Captain Emmanuel Iheanacho. He is the Chairman CEO of Integrated Oil and Gas Company Limited. He'll be speaking with us on a number of developments in the maritime industry, as well as how far gone they are with the modular refinery projects.
Yeah, Nigerians have the capacity to run shipping. Shipping, first and foremost, let's identify that shipping is a very important element of our international trade. Nigeria is an international trading country. We export large volumes of crude oil, send them to foreign refineries, and then bring the products that are refined there back here to Nigeria. And then the money that is earned from this trade powers a huge international trading operation where we buy all kinds of consumables and goods for development. So we use shipping to a very large extent. So when you ask me about potential Nigerian ship owners, are they in a position actually to take advantage of this structure that we have? They are, but they are not really doing it. There are several dimensions to this. One, shipping is highly capital intensive. And so when you're looking at ordinary Nigerians being able to afford the cost of ships, it wouldn't happen. If you are looking to be able to borrow it from Nigerian banks are not sufficiently capitalized to lend people the kind of money that they require to buy well-founded ships. The CVFF is a component should be a component of a larger program for developing shipping as a whole. So I was going to say that in terms of the technical capacity to run the ships, we have run shipping operations since the late 1950s, starting from when the Nigerian National Shipping Line was established, when people like myself had an opportunity to sail on board ships and to acquire the skills of technically operating ships. So we can operate the ships. We had money to buy those ships if only government realized the importance of shipping and situated that correctly in terms of its developmental agenda. So that they didn't is the reason why we still export our crude oil without adding value to it. We allow that this crude oil is carried on ships that belongs to third parties. Then the crude oil makes a transit and goes into refineries that don't belong to us. Further value is added and profits made at our expense because we're sitting down there not doing anything about it. So these are areas that our policy planners must really look into very carefully and try and harvest some of these benefits which we have absolutely neglected in the past. The CVFF is a good idea, but let me say that we should go beyond looking at the CVFF, because the CVFF is a fund that is set up to provide a seed money for those who are trading mostly on Nigeria's coast. But you want to know what proportion of Nigeria's trade does the CVFF constitute? Our shipping trade constitutes, international shipping trade, maybe 95%. So we really, if we are accruing funds for developing shipping, we shouldn't just concentrate on the CVFF or the cabotage business. We should absolutely set out to develop shipping in all its ramifications. And from our experience, one area that we could have actually just mastered very easily, arising from the nature of the activities involved, is the tanker trade. Because the tanker trade is so easy. You carry only one cargo, there's one bill of lading, and so all you have to do is to be able to operate the ship to a port, stop the ship in there, load the ship, sail the ship out of the port, and then to another port. So it's not as difficult, for instance, as if you are operating a liner service, which requires you to carry thousands of containers. And in each of those containers, you have thousands and thousands of small goods, and you have the administrative requirements to be able to sort all of these things out and make sure that you go to the port at the right time, you deliver to the person who owns the cargo at the right time. So there is really a lot that we could have done to harvest and to develop our shipping potentials, which still remains to be done. Well, that's right. Yes, shipbuilding and ship repair yards. Remember that we did have a very modern shipbuilding and ship repair yard at dry dock at Snake Island. I say we did have because it's now in history. It seems to me that the business interest there has absolutely moved on, and the shipbuilding and ship repair part of that facility is no longer getting the priority attention that it's supposed to get. And so maybe the owners of the business are now doing some other things in the maritime other than actually building and repairing vessels. But I do think that there is a great potential. So if you look at the size of Nigeria's economy, the extent to which we use their ships, whether they are Nigerian-owned vessels or foreign vessels, there really would have been a great demand for dry docking services and for shipbuilding services for smaller vessels to ply our coastal waters. Well, I think it really would go a long way towards making it possible for us to attain our goals in shipping development if we had a bank that was particularly devoted to financing assets in the maritime. Because part of the problem that ordinary banks have is that they do not understand the risk element and how to provide a mitigation for it. If you just wind back our story a few years, maybe 10 years back, you will see that a lot of Nigerian commercial banks absolutely burnt their fingers when they inadvertently lent money to people without fully evaluating the risk that was involved in so doing, and so they lost a lot of money. So these days, when you invite them, they would always tell you that they are taking care of their shareholders' funds, and they would not knowingly lend you money to buy ships. And you don't blame them. The risks are very different, and they are specialists. And so the specialist banking institution with the necessary skill sets really would be the best for advancing our interest in that area. Well, Nigeria has done quite well, actually. Oron is there. Oron provides a very good training ground for people who wish to pursue a career in the shipping industry. And I think that what really needed to be done would have been for Oron's output to be hooked onto a national capacity where we bought tankers, similar to what we did with the general cargo vessels in the NNSL so many years ago. We in the industry have actually fought a campaign to ensure that we participated in the carriage of Nigerian trade goods. Not only were we proposing that it would give us the opportunity to make money, it would create the opportunity for us to acquire engineering and technical skills. It would create a very good opportunity for us to hook on to what is done elsewhere. So how do you process these linkages? If a Nigerian registered tanker, Nigerian-owned tanker picked up cargo from here and goes to America, for instance, what are the requirements in those areas for the standards that are required? So there are so many things that we're losing because we were just satisfied with selling the oil, allowing that others will do the job, when we could have actually done that job and made significant profit from participating in that business. Well, my take on it, I think it was a slip of tongue, to be honest. I can't understand the basis upon which you would propose to merge NIMASA. NIMASA an organization that is set up to develop shipping capacity. It's an organization that is set up to regulate safety and seaworthiness. So I cannot understand how you could then propose to merge NIMASA with the FIRS and with the customs. FIRS is a revenue generating agency collecting money on behalf of government, and customs to a certain extent does that. So if you're talking about a merger between maybe the customs and the FIRS, that would be understood. But if you now throw in NIMASA for good measure, then I think you are really playing in the realms of speculation if you did that. You're getting everything wrong. The road will not unclog itself. Somebody has to organize it. It could well be a call-up system that allows that certain category of vessels carrying certain category of freight would pass at certain times. But certainly what you need is to have a proper planning. The other thing, of course, that you need to do is to carry out studies over time, snapshots in time, to look at the rate of growth of transport and throughput cargoes over time, and then to make provisions in terms of the infrastructure that is built to accommodate this throughput. So the roads that you met 50 years ago will not be sufficient or adequate to accommodate transportation that goes into and out of the ports today. So the lesson for us there is that we have to continuously plan, and that is how you see the great parts of the world that things work, because people are planning and people are continuously directing everything that is done there. It cannot, there is no way a system can plan itself and just carry on like that. Yeah, see, it really was very strange because Nigeria is a major player, Nigeria is the major leader in Africa. And so for the AFCTA, AGFA to be promulgated, to be in place, and then for us then to shut our borders, that was really 100%, 180% contradictory to the purpose of the AGFA rule agreement. So what were we trying to do? We wanted to encourage inter-country trade in Africa, our African brothers, and then we shut our borders. So how are we supposed to achieve that purpose? I would say that you can ask that question, I can ask the question as well, but we would never know because this is something that was done by the person who was in charge at the time, and there was nobody to compel him to explain to them what the rationale was behind the decisions that he took at that time. So he just carried on, shut the borders, and we were watching and we were praying that the borders will be open. Now I hear the borders are open, but the customs have gone on record to say that the borders are not actually open for vehicular traffic or for the importation of vehicles. So why not? If there are any differences in tariffs that are maintained, why do those differences exist? So it could have been a basis for us to sit down and then look at our tariffs and look at all of those things that act as impediments to free trade between our African brothers. Yes, so let's talk about the issue of the subsidies. It was a complete and total waste. You know, subsidies was maintained because was the poor people, the masses who are supposed to benefit from cheap transport arising from the maintenance of the subsidy on petroleum products. But the truth of the matter is that the poor people were not benefiting at all. The people who are benefiting were the ones who actually drove into the station. So if you're a car owner, you drive into the station and there's unlimited amount of fuel that you could buy at the subsidized rate. But the poor people are stuck in a bus, 15 of them in one transport, and they can only buy, maximum they buy is 100 liters. So you split it down for those 15 people and you can see that there is a limited benefits to them. The guy who drives a car goes in there, sitting by himself, buys 100 liters or maybe 200 liters if there's any such a capacity, drives his car, and there's nothing that says to him, pick up people on the street as you are going along, so that we have greater efficiency in the use of the transport that government has subsidized, so that you can spread that subsidy to people. There's absolutely nothing there. So also, government was losing a lot of money, because for every liter that was dispensed, government was paying huge amounts to sustain this really misguided policy. So we're not at all surprised that subsidies have been removed. But people are disappointed because prices are rising. It is because the changes that are expected have not really fully manifested. And part of the problems that we have is that people are still fiddling with the pricing of petroleum products. The price of petroleum products is not supposed to be dictated by anyone. The volume that is supplied in the market is not supposed to be dictated by anyone. All of these things are supposed to be determined by interaction of competitors in the marketplace. So if there is a need for fuel in the market, people will bring in more fuel. Other people will bring in fuel. There's greater competition. It beats down the prices, and it comes down to an equilibrium level beyond which you could not drop that price again. That is the price that people will pay for it. So it will happen. Once people stop fiddling, calling prices, calling volumes, you will see that those prices will absolutely come down to an equilibrium level. It happened with diesel, so too with the PMS. Well, I mean, modular refineries are a logical way to go. Let me just start by comparing ourselves to America, for instance. America is a huge country. It's about 1.5 times the population of Nigeria. How many refineries do they have? 139 fully functional refineries. How many refineries does Nigeria have? 4 refineries that don't work. So again, let us even come low and look at a state such as Texas in the USA, maybe about the size of Lagos. How many refineries does it have? 32. How many refineries does Lagos have? None. So we have a long way to go. It's very important that we have means of refining petroleum products, so that we can provide transportation to move goods and services in our economy, so that we can provide the energy resources to power our industry. These are the basic things that we need. If we upend them and give priority to other areas of the economy, we will not get the benefits that we're entitled to. So first and foremost, provide energy resources, provide energy, provide lighting, and all of those things. These are the things that modular refineries can do. So the government should actually take very seriously the issue of and the requirement for us to have more modular refineries to work in tandem with Dangote's refinery when it starts producing, because the government refineries in Port Harcourt, Warri, and Kaduna have not been working. So we need the private sector inputs in the conception of modular refineries and in the operation of these facilities. Yeah, our modular refinery proposition has gone very far. It's gone as far as it can go. Modular refineries are really highly capital intensive facilities, so we've articulated it. We've done the engineering studies. We've done the detailed engineering studies. We've achieved the authority to construct, but we're still at the point where we're trying to raise financing. This is the key drawback. It is very similar to the problems that people have with owning ships. Highly capital intensive, and really, unless you have some specialized financing mechanisms set up by the central bank so that people can borrow money from it, it will be difficult for these things to be actualized. There is also a need for us to have specific guarantees with respect to the availability of crude. because it's really odd in a situation where the Nigerian government partners with some oil producing companies and then has a share of the oil. It would be odd for the government to be selling that oil on an FOB basis, whilst there are local refineries that are set up and can use those things and add value. So the time has come when we should match the government's share of the crude to the refinery proposition of the local refiners, and then have cheap and sufficient fuel for using in our economy, and that we can also export to our neighboring countries. Well, you are talking about cliches, because we like to subscribe to cliches. We want to be a hub port for trade in West Africa. We want to be a hub port for refined products and all of those things. We've got to move away from buying into those cliches and absolutely sink our teeth into reality. You know, is it really a good thing for us to be a hub port for refining, so that we can refine petroleum products, we can be self-sufficient in the availability of refined products, we can put ourselves in a position where we can then send these products out, because we're going to make profit from it. We're going to have technology transfer through involvement in some of these things. Yes. So the same thing, we want to be the hub for trade in West Africa. We have got to do what has been done in Lekki, where a port has been developed. There are additional ports proposed, including on Tomorrow Island. So we have to develop all of those things. We have to give encouragement to people who bring themselves out to say that they want to do these things. So yeah, the future is bright. You know, looking at where we are coming from and what we have endured in the last few years, the future is absolutely bright. It couldn't be brighter.
Thank you for spending time with us on the program CEO's Talk Business at the Marina today. We had a discussion with Captain Emmanuel Iheanacho, the Chairman CEO of Integrated Oil and Gas Company. We do hope that you continue with us next time when we come on the program. My name is Hope Orivri.